There we go. Is that working any better? It was being stupid. I don't know if it's coming through or not. Should be finally. Anybody out there hear me? See me? Just let me know. Evening and welcome everybody. Technical issues never cease to amaze me. No, there it goes. Finally, it looks like everything's coming through. Geez, that took forever, didn't it? Feedback, actually. Hopefully, we got that taken care of. Leave that there so I can see. Try that. Did that work?
Yeah,
Testing one, two.
can you hear me?
Are you speaking?
Uh-oh.
Welcome, Lacey.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Trying to determine. This thing's being retarded. No. Say something again.
Hello.
There we go. I hear you now.
Okay.
Somehow I had you muted on my end, and I have no idea how that happened.
No worries. Thank you for letting me up on your panel. I appreciate it.
Oh, anytime, anytime. See if I can set this here so the cat don't dance all over it. So, are you familiar? I think a little thing you said earlier, you're familiar with recovery of some sort.
Yes, sir, fellow traveler.
Ah, which circle do you fly in?
I've been in multiple, but found a home in a couple. So
Yeah,
certainly,
we got.
So go ahead.
Yeah, how long you been participating?
Uh, the journey started, oh gosh, a couple years ago. Let's see, about 22 years.
Ah, just a little bit under me. Long time, huh?
Yeah, no, it
try to
started
figure
out.
out.
Mhm.
Yeah, I got what April. I'll have what year is this? 2026. I'll have 26 years in April.
Lovely.
But
You know?
but each day is a new day, a new discovery. It's all about today. Can't go to the bank on it. You can't use it for a backup because it'll fail you every time. I've
I
seen it
hear
happen all too often. What do they call that? Resting on your laurels. Seen
you.
people get burnt many a time.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. No, that was even though my journey started um, many years ago, it early on there was a time when I decided to remove myself from circles and thank you God though I was able to come back just within a few months. So it's and that's been consistent for over 20 years now. Yeah. So it's
Welcome, Watt Life. Yeah, I know this was not in the plans of my life ever to end up around the tables, you know. But it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And that first step, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol. That that one took a long time because I always thought I controlled it, and it wasn't until the end that I figured out it controlled me. And then it said that our lives have become unmanageable. I remember that. I destroyed everything I was touching or anybody I came into contact with. And I got to these tables and it was like, and I did like you, I had to shop around to find the right group. But thank goodness I found a good group that was dedicated to the cause as opposed to using it as a crutch. The meetings as a crutch. They actually believed in the program and used it quite well. And nor were they a cult. They didn't claim ownership of anybody. You were free to come and go. And that's what kept me around that particular group I belonged to. And then they threw that second step at me, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. I'm like, okay, what are we talking about here? Because I was not a church going religious person by any means. And oh, now my phone wants stuff. Hey, hopefully I can stop it. Hold on a second. No, do not update, you silly thing. But yeah, that step there, I sat in that chair and that was the only thing I had in life. As long as I was sitting in that chair, holding on to it, sitting there, I knew it wouldn't run away. Now, had I got up and walked off from it, I didn't know it was going to be there when I got back or not. That's how bad things were. And I white knuckled it for, a long time because my head was messed up. It took my head a long time to become clear in order to even think straight. And then I finally got to the point where I came to believe that power greater than me could restore me to some sort of sanity. And it
Was
was
there
a slow. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask a question. Was there a specific experience you had that had things had your mindset shift, or was it multiple
For
experiences?
uh, can you clarify that question just a little bit?
Sure. In terms of coming to believe, was there sort of a one time experience you had that shifted your perspective on that, or was it an accumulation of different
For
experiences?
well, I just knew at that time I was going. Our group ran a meeting just I think every day. If not, we went somewhere else. My sponsor drug me everywhere, and uh, it was just the fact that I realized that okay, I'm going to these meetings and I'm not drinking, and I don't have to drink, but I still want to drink. And it wasn't until actually I got the third step, made a decision, turned our will and our lives over to care of God as we understood Him. It wasn't until I actively made that step a part of my daily routine that I remember telling my sponsor, the third step prayer in the book. And
Mm-hmm.
he told me, I want you to do that prayer every morning when you get up, every night when you go to bed. Get down on your knees and say it. And he goes, I don't know, it might have been a week. And he says, how's that working out? I said, I can't memorize that damn thing. I just can't do it right now. He said, look here, dumbass. Take the book, open the book, and read the words. And so I had to do that. And I did that for quite a while, but I noticed I didn't need the book anymore for it. And I also noticed that some of the weight had been lifted off my shoulder about what I had become. But I wasn't actively destroying anything anymore, but yet I wasn't fixing anything because I didn't know how to fix anything. And I had to learn that it was going to take the rest of the steps in order to achieve that solution. All I knew at that particular time is the more I did the prayer, the less I had to white knuckle was starting would go away. I didn't have to white knuckle it. I wasn't 24/7 thinking about, oh man, I need a drink. I need a drink. I need a drink. That thought was still there in the background, but it wasn't a persistent nag like it was. And then it was a culmination of all the steps because my sponsor tried to tell me, he goes, boy, you're a slow learner. You're hard headed. And I'm like, hard headed. I'm hard headed because I'm one of these people. I got to see it, touch it, feel it, taste it, something, hear it. Well, when you're trying to make a connection with a power grid in yourself, it doesn't work like that. At least it didn't for me. And then he wanted me to do this step 4 about made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. I wanted to run because when he gave me that little assignment and showed me what to do, and I started looking at myself, I didn't like what I was seeing at all. The things that I had done, what I had become, how selfish and stupid I was. And I worked on that one. I'm going to be honest with you. It might have been a year. I know it was every bit of 6 months because I read it as made a thorough and searching. I wanted to be complete and concise with my analytical mind. So it just took me a little bit longer than I guess others, maybe not. I'm not for sure. There wasn't no grading system for that. And that was a pretty good chunk. And then the fifth step, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. God was easy. To myself was easy. but to another human being, I had to really buckle down to do that one because nobody wants to tell somebody else they're garbage. You don't want it printed on 11 o'clock news, so you want to make sure you got a sponsor you can trust or a person that is trustworthy to take that step with. I remember taking that step, and we prayed before we started the fifth step, went through it. We started at, I don't know, 9 o'clock one morning, and it was noon the next day when we got finished. We were up all night. And when we got done, we got down and did another prayer. And the overwhelming, not complete peace, but it came in phases. There was just another piece of peace that was coming as I progressed up this ladder of these things called the steps. Like I said, it was an adventure. Like my sponsor tried to tell me, he said it's not the destination, it's the journey. Just keep that in mind, otherwise you're liable to trip yourself up and be out there acting stupid again. I'm trying to keep up with chat here. Give me 1 second. Oh, welcome, Samsonite. Yeah, I definitely need to trim. Next day when we finished. Yeah, we didn't stop. He didn't believe in stopping. And so that's how we did it. And his wife was generous enough, but by that point, she said he had sponsored enough people that it didn't phase her for things like that. She just kept the coffee flowing, which I thought was pretty decent. I remember step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of characters, which were identified in our inventory. Because if I was to carry those defects around, it wouldn't have been long. I'd have been back drinking. And I'd worked too hard to get to this point. So I was ready for that. And 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. Yes, that 7-step prayer, I did that day in, day out, day in. I had that thing memorized upside down, backwards, sideways. And I would say these prayers until I believed them, till I felt them, because I didn't want to half ass it. You could memorize something and recite it. But we had a tradition at the group that I belonged to that you did the 7-step prayer in front of the group when you felt you were ready to move on. And you would get down on your knees, and everybody at the group would get down on their knees with you while you prayed. Pretty uplifting event, to be honest with you. Another one of what I call big transitional moments. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. Well, I had a short list at first, but then the more I was getting into it, the deeper and the more people, things got on that list. So I got that done. 9 was made to recommend such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And my sponsor was real particular on that last part, except when to do so would injure them or others. And he told me to include myself as an other. because you could omit yourself, because we do harms to ourselves. Maybe not everybody, but if you think about it, we did some self harm, which altered our whole thinking process, the way we lived, the way we acted 24/7. Um, so I went through that 9, and there was a couple of them that there was no way that they could be done in person, because of the to do so would injure them. It would definitely injure them and another. And we're not supposed to hurt other people. This is our mess. So that really bothered me. Okay, I'm not moving on until I get this done. And finally, I called him up. I said, "There's no way that a couple of these that I can, if I try to make amends, it's just going to cause a gigantic situational mess that's going to be totally out of control. And there's going to be people hurt bad." He said, "What you do is you write out your amends on a letter, and it better be real and it better be heartfelt." So I did that with those two. Told him I got it done, and he says, "Okay." He says, "Now read them to me." So I read each of the two letters to him. He said, "Okay, now go outside and burn them and release it to God. That's all you can do, because if you take that and try to make amends of those two situations, you're totally going to hurt people. And that's not what we're here for. We're not here to destroy or hurt somebody else." So I did that, and that was a huge relief. And I lost some friends over that, especially the ones that thought, "You can come on, you can come in and have one beer with us. It's been a while since you drank, it ain't gonna hurt you." I had to cut them folks loose. 10, continue to take a personal inventory of ourselves, and when we were wrong, we promptly admitted it. That was a daily routine. Every night I would do that. Take an inventory of my day, and if I was wrong, if I could that night or the next day, I made sure I cleaned up my mess instead of letting it fester like I used to. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And that was something that I'd learned. I guess it would have been that step was prayer was me talking to God. Meditation was me sitting and listening for God. And like I said, I'd never been religious my whole life, and this was a whole new undertaking. But all I knew is the farther I went through these steps, the better my life was becoming. I was getting a life back. I was no longer this degenerate. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, you go to them stupid meetings. You're just replacing the meetings for the booze. You're it's a crutch. You're addicted to meetings." Our group wasn't like that. We were taught we were there for the next guy that walked through the door and needed help. That's why we kept coming back, because that's an insurance policy on our continued sobriety. And that was a great feeling, knowing that you don't have to, other than God, I always lean on God now, but I didn't have to lean on anybody, any program. And at that stage, me and my sponsor became basically on the same level. We were equals. And I always still deferred to him because he was older and wiser. But he always said, no, we're on the same level now. There's never one above. And he said, always remember that these steps, this whole program is not about not drinking. This program is about learning to live again. And like I said, that probably altogether, mm, I had to put a thing on it, maybe 3 years or better. Like I said, it took me a while because I was stubborn. I was analytical. I was always, whatever I did, I wanted to do it complete, 100%. I didn't want to miss something and get drunk over it. So I was methodical. And he about beat the hell out of me with step 4. He says, you're trying to make it too perfect, boy. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. And that's what I did. Oh, let me check the chat. Welcome, Lindsay. Welcome, El Piro. I was like 5 for you, Chuck. I don't quite get that. That's okay. Is that about how your experience with, or no? Were you already a believer?
No, I was not when I first came. And thanks for sharing, by the way. I appreciate everything you shared.
My
No,
pleasure.
I definitely was not. I didn't realize there was a difference between organized religion and spirituality, and I just found that there was such an internal um, reaction I would have. This was, many years ago, but just even to the word God, it just something
I
just
was
internally.
my first definition was God, good orderly direction is what he
Hmm.
told
Yeah, no, I liked that acronym and the great outdoors and another one I remember as well. And but over time, I found as I was evolving and the connection there was evolving that I my understanding or perhaps misunderstanding was also evolving. And I've gotten to a place where it makes sense to me, and
me.
I don't necessarily focus so much on a description as the connection, the conscious
Yeah.
connection and how that impacts my life today. And so that's helped me to kind of shift out of, because I went through a period where I was attempting to have spirituality through, right, intellectualizing all of it and thought that was me having, these spiritual experiences.
The
And
psychological approach.
yes, exactly. And
Been there,
very much,
done that.
yeah, very much missed the boat on that one. But that's okay. It is part of the journey. And thank you, God, I was able to have a realization of something's missing here. So yeah, no, I
Yeah.
think things evolved.
Was any particular one of them rather difficult steps? I meant.
The steps wise, yeah. I've over time I've gone through them in this formal sense, right? That we're talking about. As you've already mentioned, it certainly becomes just a way of life, right? I look at taking certain actions on a daily basis, kind of like I brush my teeth every day. I call
Hmm.
it quiet time, but that's my meditation time. That's time I open up, my morning, my daily reading, and things like that. So right, obviously it becomes just part of the daily thing. But
Without
yeah, I
thinking
mean,
about it. Yeah.
but in terms of difficulty, I go through them in this, again, formal sense, pretty much on an annual basis at this point.
Makes sense.
Um, just just as a way to, have a new experience, right, with each of the steps. And like you had mentioned previously about, not resting on the laurels, and I look at that as my past experiences. You know, going through those steps years ago, I can't expect that to keep me free today.
Right.
And
Right.
so, throughout the years, I would say there's been difficulty with multiple, just kind of depending on the round, so to speak. There was a time when, yeah, there was, as I've had like memory bubbles over time, different things come up, right? So writing additional fourth steps and getting
Yep.
to that point of, then having to share that in the next step, and feeling that hesitancy. I don't want to, I know it's
Mhm.
good for me, right? I know there's a freedom on the other side of doing that, but there still is that hesitancy of, I actually have to, put myself in that vulnerable place and and say those things. And so, I've had moments like that come up. Other times, there's been moments with the ninth step, um, having to, and I look at that particular step as many as I can do in person, um, is better, just because I find that there's more of a sense of humility that I've experienced when I have to look the person face to face, in the eye versus,
Mhm.
the phone, or even over, in the virtual world and things like that. And so, yeah, I've experienced hesitation with certain individuals. I found in particular some family members, um, just because of the nature of the relationship at the time. Um, but again, the freedom that comes from doing those things that tend to be more uncomfortable, I find is just the motivation, the reward, as
Mhm.
well. And certainly, yeah, I've had with even step 6, I found that one in particular probably took me a longer period to grasp more of an understanding. I've heard in, some places, different discussions, conversations, it can be kind of glossed over. And there's certain books I've read, and studies done that has helped me to kind of dissect that a bit more to get a better understanding. How do I know that I'm really internalizing this, having an experience with this particular step? Am I growing through this step? Those sort of things I found a bit more difficult to clearly answer compared to perhaps, some of the other steps, right? And but again, over time, I've found an understanding that has helped me, and I've kind of made peace with it. I do look at that as, it's an attitude. With step 6, what is my attitude here? What's my perspective, in terms of the willingness, right? And I've also learned, that there is some action there that I can take, right, with step 6 and as it flows into the next step. And I look at that as character building activities. I look for those, because I know obviously I'm not the one, my unaided human will is not going to remove the behaviors that are not appealing, right? Nice way of putting, right? Yeah, the shortcomings, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's my unaided human will is not going to be the thing that removes those things. So it's like, well, what is my part, right? where can I pick up the shovel and do my part? And I look at that as, okay, instead of looking at not engaging in certain things, let me shift my focus into what's going to build my character. Where do I want to go? Right? What type of person do I want to be, and what actions can I take that would move me in that direction? And as I do that, I look at, that's kind of my way of saying to God, I am ready. I do want this. I also need your help, but I'm willing to do my part. And so as I focus on being better, being kinder, being more tolerant, that then, God can address the other stuff, if that makes sense, kind of thing. So I've found that to be
100%.
helpful.
100%. And let's see. Yeah, I found too that even though I went through the steps and finally got through them, that like you said, over time, there would be past situations that would actually, it took my mind, 24 months, 2.5 years to actually get the fog out completely. And so things would pop up that, like you said, I'd have to go back and go through it, do the fourth, the fifth, go back and do the rest, till I got it all cleared up. Not for my sake, but for their sake. That's why I think we make amends to the other folks, to try to let them know that we are indeed sorry for what we have done. And the other thing I was taught with the ninth step is, even though I made direct amends, don't expect anything in return. Offer a heartfelt amends, and if they accepted it, fine. If not, best thing to do is to walk away. There's no sense in arguing about it. And they will chew on it over time, and they will accept it or they won't. But that's on them at that stage. We've done everything we can, is what I was taught. Because, yeah, I'd have beat myself up without some of these little extra clues of what was going on. Oh, how dare her not take my apology? What kind of woman or what kind of dude is that? Like I said, the guys at work were the hardest, because we always got off and we all went to the same tavern, because it was a steel mill, and everybody had their favorite hangout depending on what part of the plant you worked in. And they'd say, "Oh, come on." And I'm like, "No, this dummy ain't tempting fate." Because, like I told, the day I went to get sobered up, and a guy helped me get across the street to the union hall. And then we had a employee assistance program, but it was a union guy. But by the time he got everything straightened out, set up, and I got to the hospital, it'd been 14 hours since I had had a drink. And when they did the BAC, the doc said, "Dude, you're a .285." I'm like, "Doesn't mean anything to me." And he says, "I'm going to tell you right now, 1 out of 15 of you guys that come in like this won't make it." I'm like, "What do you mean won't make it? Just go home?" He said, No, you'll end up dying." I'm like, "Man, this dude's tripping." Well, I spent a month and a half in detox, and I keeled over twice. He wasn't lying. Had I not been in detox there at the hospital, I'd have been dead. And that's just absolutely amazing. He said, you basically had supplemented your food, your drink, no matter what the drink is. You were strictly living off of the alcohol. And oh, the DTs were terrible. I remember when I was first going to meetings, I couldn't even hold a cup of coffee. And I'd spill it everywhere. Well, that's how it was at home at the end of my drinking career, probably the last 5 years. I'd get up in the morning, make coffee, but I knew better than to pour a cup until I reached in the freezer, pulled out a bottle of vodka, took 3 shots. Then I could hold the coffee cup. And then during the day, so I wouldn't, or I worked shift work at the time. NyQuil was a wonderful friend because it was 0.25% alcohol back then. And I used NyQuil at work because that way I wouldn't get in trouble. Then I'd get off work. I'd have at least a case of beer and a fifth of bourbon and start over the next day. That wasn't living because it was like Groundhog Day. I did the same thing day after day after day. My wife's bitching at me to quit drinking. I'm like, you can go fuck off. I'm in charge here. I'm the boss. I bring home the bread. I know what I'm doing. Whew. Boy, did I find out I did not know what I was doing. It was a rough campaign. The thing, and the other thing I learned, which was something I had never even thought of, but just from talking to religious folk as I was growing up, thing I learned is I never pray for myself. I don't pray for selfish things. I pray for others. Let me be a maximum use to God and to others. Leave me out of it because me is what got me there in the first place. But by doing that, the strange thing about it was the blessing would come back in some form or fashion for me. And I never, I don't overlook none of them. Even the smallest things, I chalk it up as a miracle for some of the things that I'm able to do after I sobered up with the help of God. I walked one, two, three, four, probably 6 people all the way till their death. And at the end was able to sit down and pray with them and pray for them. And the it wasn't me. It was something bigger than me that would bring a sense of peace over them. Where they were no longer fighting, scared, terrified. I'm like, it, nothing, nothing to do with me. Something up there, whether it's the God, the Creator, the universal spark, whatever you want to call it. It's a power greater than me because without it, I wouldn't be here. I learned that lesson. Anybody else is welcome to come up too. It's just not a simple thing. Now, do you continue to stay active or?
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I am active in 2 fellowships currently. I attempted to maintain 3, but that's just a bit much.
Ooh,
So
You
I
asking for
find,
trouble.
yeah, no, it wasn't, but no, I found a home in a couple, and it works out well. And I find, regardless of the symptom, right? Because I do
Hmm.
find it's all but a symptom, that the solution, points, it's all the same. And over time, just my understanding of whether it's different steps or me relating into the world, has as that has evolved, um, where I've found, my home, so to speak, in fellowships, has shifted a little bit. But again,
Well,
I
yeah,
find,
people
you know,
people change and the atmosphere changes. Sometimes you got to move so that
mhm,
you don't get stagnant. Also,
yeah, yeah.
I found
No,
that out too.
it's great. I enjoy, walking others through the journey, and seeing changes take place in them. That, to me, I find to be one of the greatest things, is
That's
just,
a
seeing
fact.
somebody else.
I was 30, maybe 30 days sober, and my sponsor asked the wife if I could go on a trip with him. Well, he had talked to her in private already. It was like, sure, go, have fun. Had no idea. We ended up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, to the international AA convention. Jesus Christ! I wanted to choke the living shit out of my sponsor. I mean, it was one thing going to a group. That's another thing when you're walking into thousands. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
When you're when you're young and dumb and brand new and fresh and you don't have a clue, it's like, oh my goodness, it was scary. And I didn't have a dime. I didn't have two nickels to rub together. Well, the group paid for the trip. They passed a basket in order to cover my part of the trip, which I didn't know about till sometime after the fact. But I made sure that down the road I did my part for the next person, so that maybe they could experience something they never experienced before. And then there was a convention. It was called Five Corners Convention in crap. Don't you die. It was Sikeston, Missouri. It was held there every year. And we would go down there and there'd be roughly 5,000 people would show up. And somehow I became the point person for the state of Illinois. And the first time I had to get up there in front of 5,000 people to speak, I thought I was going to crap my pants. But it's all learning experience. We're here to share our experience, strength, and our hope. That
Hmm.
it's not a blind endeavor. There is a payoff. Now we were open minded enough at my group that if no matter what your ism was, you were welcome to attend. And then, like, I remember one time I got this drug addict wanted me to be a sponsor, and I talked to my sponsor about it because I don't know the first thing about drugs. Period. I cannot relate to any of the stories. He said, "Well, walk him as far as you can, and then help him find someone when it comes that can better help him in that area, but at least get him going in the right direction because he was such a mess and scared because he'd been to a couple of the NAs and they scared the hell out of him because he said all they did was tell these stories of user stories. And he said it scared me because I wanted to use again after hearing these stories. So he stuck around for a little while. Then we got him hooked up with somebody good from the other program. As far as I know, he's still going. And
Oh,
do I
that's
take
great.
credit for that? Nope. I take credit for nobody's sobriety. That's all the man upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Because the minute I do, I'm going to get a big head and I'm going to become the next, what's the guy's name? Tony Robbins?
Oh,
No. You turn it into a commercial business then. Screw that.
Mhm.
I don't need the accolades or anything. And I don't know how much money I've lost over the years trying to help the next fella out. Just to watch him disappear. I'm not as easy with the money anymore. You got to prove yourself first.
Mm.
You did you have to go to detox?
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, good for you. It wasn't fun.
Yeah, I remember visiting a sponsee in detox once, several years ago. It was an interesting adventure being in that
Oh,
environment. But
oh yeah.
I mean, I remember, like back in the day when, the rehabs weren't as popular, and people were coming into the fellowship or specifically into meetings, drunk. I mean, that was
Oh
just,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Be-
We'd bring them
because
in.
they had to, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah,
had yeah,
absolutely.
they had to be there. Not they wanted to, they had to be there
Hmm.
by the court.
Yeah, yeah. I remember those doing 12-step calls like that and bringing ladies in and then,
That's
rehabs.
another golden rule. You never sponsor the opposite sex. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you end up with the 13th step.
Well, yeah, yeah. I see the rationale, especially depending on the fellowship. I definitely see the rationale. There's other fellowships
It
that.
can be done. It can be done. Like you said, you just got to be careful.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. No, it's situational, but
Hmm.
and there are certain fellowships I've found that are, not balanced when it comes to the sexes, and so
Oh
it can
yes.
be more difficult to find than a sponsor of the same sex. And, but I'm glad I haven't had that issue before, but I do know, others have. And
And we always made it a point if it was somebody new, like say it was a female, we always made sure it was either a male or female or two males. But we tried to at least have one female, two people, as opposed to a
Mhm.
one-on-one situation. And that always worked out pretty good, because you're dragging them to umpteen different meetings.
Mhm.
Because you never know which one they're going to fit in with. Like you said, I hated going to the ones that felt like a club or clique. Does that make any sense?
Mhm. Yeah. Oh yes.
I mean, you even just pop it in and to attend a meeting, and you felt like the odd wheel. Like,
Mhm.
what's this guy doing here? type feeling, you know. You got your good ones, you got your bad ones. Anybody down there got any questions or welcome to come up, or you got any more questions or you want to share anything else? I'm wide open.
Mhm. Trying to think question wise. Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I certainly appreciate, you sharing your experience, strength, and hope. And I always enjoy hearing, different people's experiences, and not just through the steps, but in terms of, day to day, how that looks for the person, what helps them, continue to evolve. I'm just hearing, that the recovery, I think is such a beautiful thing. I know something that has helped me, and I would say it's probably in the past few years, but a shift in my understanding on self care. I used to minimize that. And I also used to look at it as like, oh, take a shower, brush your teeth, like those kind of self care things.
Uh
And
huh.
being in a particular fellowship where they do have that as part of their approach, um, and I understand today why that is, but I put a lot more emphasis on getting sleep, getting enough sleep, which I didn't before, and am I feeding myself properly in terms of nutrition? Am I taking care of my basics, so that I can show up for someone else, right? Because if I'm drained, if
Yep.
I'm tired, if I'm, in a bad mood, if I haven't addressed, my internal needs and physical needs, right? Um, I'm going to then come into an interaction with somebody, whether it's conscious or not, trying to get my needs met, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely.
So that was a shift for me in the past few years of really putting, especially with, like I mentioned, sleep in particular, that sort of way of, if you want to call it being selfish, but taking care of me first on those basic levels, so that then I can, be able to reach a hand out to somebody else.
Oh yeah, you're no good if you're no good yourself, you're going to be no good to anybody else.
Yeah, I concur. Yeah, like if I haven't done my quiet time and, just internally set myself, so to speak, and if I get I start lagging and get slothful and have that go on for several days in a row, I mean, the erosion can happen quickly at times, and I can just feel myself, then lacking a bit more patience. And then all of a sudden, judgments start popping up, and just the little bit, right, over time, it just, the isms will start coming right back out. And, when that happens to me, it's like I'm slowly walking away from being in connection with other people and from God. The more that kind of stuff, right, that terminal uniqueness will start to pop back up, and just it's a way for me to just be, causing more distance, which I know is not a place I need to be living at. The isolation to me is can be a dangerous place, if you
Oh
will.
yes. My sponsor had a saying that he always said, and it took me a long time to understand what he was saying. Don't get too damn good by Tuesday when trying to work the steps. In other words, don't rush. They
Hmm.
weren't made to be done in a week's time unless you're really that good at it, which I wasn't. You remember when the movie My Name Is Bill W came out
Hmm.
with
Yeah.
James Wood?
Hmm.
Uh, I was able to give some decent money to that project, and in return, I got posters, autographed posters from the stars, and two or three, four DVDs of the movie and whatnot. But I remember the first time when I went and saw that movie, I cried like a baby. I saw myself on that screen.
Mm.
It was just like a punch in the gut. I, I mean, I was able to call what he was doing before he even did it. I'm talking about when he was building up to while he was still drinking, how he got there. And it was like, wow. And that's where you, like you said, you can't rest on your past accomplishments and expect to keep going forward because
Mhm.
those resentments will build up. That's one of another big ones I use in my head where it talks about uh, anger and resentment, and we wouldn't treat a sick friend that way.
Mhm.
I always try to keep that in mind, and I'll have to catch myself. I'm human because I'll start to snap and then I'll back up and regroup real quick because I don't want to carry that all the way through because I remember that doesn't solve anything. So I back up, regroup, take a couple of minutes of alone time, have a little talk, go back and straighten out what I just did, and then work on the issue the right way as opposed to being angry about it. I
Mhm.
think, and oh, it's so easy to blame the others. I remember finding out when during the 4 step that you got to drop the word blame because that's the anger, the resentment right there. So you lose the blame and you figure out what parts you had. Uh, People call it maybe a psychological program. I'm sure it was. I'm not a psychology major or anything like that. But all I know is it worked for this dummy each day. I mean, I went there for a stretch. I got hurt at work in 2011, and I was having a series of back operations, which put me out of commission. And I think it was year 7. I was basically crawling from the bed to the bathroom in order to use the restroom because I couldn't walk because my back was bad shape. And the last 2 operations I had were huge time wise. They would the first one they did like 8 hours one day, waited 3 or 4 days, and then did 8 hours. And then the following year, the last year, they did 8 hours the first time and 15 hours the second time. And doc come in there and told me, he said, tell you right now, this is as good as it's going to get. There ain't no more we can do for you. You're still going to be in pain. But once they got me on my feet and I was able to walk, I told them I didn't care. I'm walking. I'm happy. A simple thing like walk. It's a strange thing because during that 7 years, my son was born in '09, so he was about 2 when I got hurt. So during that next 7 years, the wife and him took care of me. And it was shortly, no, not shortly, but a few years went by, and the wife comes down with Parkinson's and diabetes. So, and my son has autism. They took care of me, so it's my turn to take care of them. And that's one thing I don't ever get aggravated or mad or anything about it. Now, if I wasn't doing my daily inventory and soul searching and communications with God, it'd be a whole different story. I'd be one pissed off monkey. Well, no one likes to be a prisoner of their own home, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And it just works out that way. And that's what I found great about this YouTube paneling stuff. I'm able to make connections with other people to get the social interaction to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just can't run out and do what I want with Jim Bub and run down to the barn, or I got obligations. So this was a nice outreach for me.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I agree. It is the virtual world definitely opens up, and also connecting with people from potentially all over the world,
Oh
that
yeah, yeah,
wouldn't meet otherwise. It just so yeah, it definitely has its advantages as well. I mean, I do also see positives about face to face interaction as well.
yes,
Um,
ma'am.
that's also important. But depending on circumstances, it's the virtual world is definitely a great tool to be utilized,
Yeah,
for connection as well.
the one thing I did miss, because I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri area. Up in that area, you could dang near go to a meeting 7 days a week, almost 24 hours a day. There was that many up there. Well, I moved down south here to Tennessee, out in the middle of nowhere, and there's like one once a week, unless I want to drive 100 miles in either direction. It's crazy.
Wow.
But I mean, I
Mhm.
didn't even give that a thought when we moved down here until I got down here and realized, well, it's the same way too with up there. I was spoiled. I got choice of hardware store, choice of grocery stores, billions of doctors. Get down here, and that ain't the case at all. I mean, me and my wife's doctor, or our specialist, mine for my back and hers for Parkinson's, is in Nashville. That's about an 80-mile drive. My ear doctor is in Jackson, was a 50-mile drive. Yeah, it's like, boy, I miss St. Louis sometimes. And we've been iced in since last what Thursday, Friday, whenever the storm started.
Mhm.
I tried to get out today, but it ain't happening until we get more heat and get these roads ain't nothing but about 4 inches of ice right now because it hadn't got warm enough to melt it. And living out in the boonies, that's the price you pay. But I made sure took and prepped before the storm hit just in case we were stuck
Mhm.
here. And it is what it is. I get out when I can get out. I don't try to fret it. We're not going to
That's
run out of
right.
food.
Mhm.
And if we do, I got 3 cats and a dog. No, that ain't never going to happen.
You said you're out in the country. There's got to be stuff outside, perhaps.
Well, I had chickens and ducks, and but we had a huge flood in the spring and wiped them out. And I'm waiting until this spring before I put anything back in, put them back in there. Because usually springtime is when you can get the chicks. And I didn't
Mhm.
feel like hassling with going through the mail to get them. So I'm just waiting for springtime where they have them up here at the tractor store. Yeah,
Yes.
we got deer. We got some deer. I got a pond out there that's got catfish and bass in it. So yeah, if I got hungry enough, though the pond's froze over right now, that wouldn't do no good.
Well, Mr. Chuck, I actually
Well,
need
I
to.
appreciate you coming by. I'm glad
Yes,
you pounded, pounded and found me. It's just
thank.
funny how that worked out, wasn't it?
It it worked out beautifully because I just was asking somebody on Discord. I'm like, how do you reach out and find somebody besides just
What's
hoping.
that saying we got? That's God doing for us what we couldn't do for
Hmm.
ourselves.
Yeah,
It's in
absolutely.
His time, not our time. But I do appreciate you. I'm going to try to get more consistent, except this past, what, 4 or 5 days, we had no internet at all. And it's
Hmm.
still intermittent till all this ice gets off the lines. But I'm going to try to be a little more consistent and a little better prepared because my original big book that I got all marked up and I always knew where all the sweet spots were got burned up in my house fire 5 years ago. So I had to buy everything brand new and starting over, trying to
Hmm.
find those little, because I had, stuff wrote in the margins and marked
Hmm.
here and marked there. My little go to guide. But yeah, I keep this thing floating every
Hmm.
day to keep me in touch and contact and keep me sane. Okay, I'm not going to keep you. I thank you for coming by. I hope you come back.
Thank you. No, thank you for allowing me to come up on your stream. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'd love to come back sometime and continue
It
the
was a bless.
conversation.
It was a blessing for me. I do appreciate it.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, have a great evening, and
All
yeah.
righty, you too, and thank you very much.
Okay. Take care. Mhm.
What's up, Mister New Guru? It's an open panel if anybody wants to talk about anything. Otherwise, I'm going to be shutting it down here in a few minutes. That was a good conversation. Good conversation. I don't know why my chat. Come on, chat. Work. Decided to freeze up. That's life. That's quite all right. We'll get around it. Okay. But yeah, it was a good conversation about recovery. She happened to be in recovery also, which was a good thing. Hope to get it. Like I said, the internet's been crappy because ice storm. I think we got another week before it all completely melts. But with any luck, what's up, Logical Sparks? Welcome, welcome. And Beth, I see. I'll shout you out. I know you're busy. I just seen your message in there. Little talk about recovery, about how God can do for us what we can't do for ourselves. For those that, and it doesn't have to be God. It's just a power up there that's bigger than us, bigger than me. Call him the creator, call him the universal spark, whatever you want to call him, whatever works for you. It's not for everybody, I guess, but it's for me. It's what got me sober. Oh no, thank you, Lacey. It was a honor and a privilege to have you up here. All right, unless anybody's got anything else, I'm gonna cut this off. I got a couple of things to tend to, and I'll, like I said, as long as the internet stays, I'm gonna be trying to be more punctual and have a schedule steady schedule. That way everybody's not guessing when it's going to happen. Said, I'm just starting off. I'm new to this. I'm learning. Thanks everybody for coming by, and we'll see you all again next time. God bless.